Okay, so after the weekend showcase for the men's game with Dylan White and Tyson Fury going at it with that emphatic victory from Tyson Fury and a European record for 94,000 people, European record for the live crowd in attendance at a boxing match. We move on to the pinnacle of the women's game. So 2022 is really delivering for us this year. And this is, again, a history-defining, history-making fight. This is Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano. So this is Saturday the 30th of April at Madison Square Gardens, live on DAZN. It's co-promoted, incidentally, by Matchroom, who obviously represent Katie Taylor, and Most Valuable Promotions, which is Jake Paul, who represent Amanda Serrano. So let's break down and look at what we've got here. Absolutely fascinating fight. I mean, we know about Katie Taylor. She was always the golden girl. I mean, she won everything as an amateur, absolutely stellar amateur career, 188 amateur fights, very few losses, multiple European golds, and culminating in that 2012 Olympic gold, the first time that women were allowed to box and compete in the Olympics. She won gold medal in the lightweight category. She did hang on as an amateur until 2016 and went to Rio, and surprisingly went out in the quarterfinals and then turned pro. So she turned to Eddie Hearn, and, it's been a stellar run since then. She's 20-0 now, with 6 knockouts. She's the undisputed lightweight champion. She holds all 4 belts. So she comes in this fight as the undisputed, undefeated lightweight champion, defending all those belts against the challenger Amanda Serrano. Now, Serrano, surprisingly, is 42 with 1 draw and 1 loss. That first draw came in her 5th fight back in 2009. She turned pro in 2009. And then I think in her 16th fight was the 1 loss on points. And since then, she's been on a 28 streak winning victories. So, 44 fights in total. She's surprisingly, with that disparity in pro experience, she's actually 2 years younger at 33 than Taylor is at 35. But so she's also a 7-division world champion. She's the most decorated female boxer ever. In the history. She would be the most decorated boxer ever if it weren't for Manny Pacquiao in terms of going through the divisions and winning belts. So incredibly accomplished. Interestingly enough, when you tune into those stats a bit more, it looks obviously like she's had more than twice as many fights as Katie Taylor. But if you look at her amateur record, she was 9-1. So she only had 10 amateur fights before turning pro, whereas Katie Taylor had 188 amateur fights. And as I've already outlined, all those achievements in the amateur code. So, experience is not too dissimilar there. Also, if you look at the rounds boxed, Amanda Serrano's boxed 182 pro rounds, which is only, I think, 16 more than Taylor. The reason being, with all those fights, she ends the fights early. She's a big KO artist. So, a very big puncher, very heavy puncher. And Taylor, she's got a KO percent of 68%. So, she's whereas Taylor's got a 30% KO ratio. But you've got to also factor into that if you look at the stats, Taylor has fought by far the better opposition all through her career. I mean, she fought for her first world title 11 months after turning pro, and has been a world champion ever since, obviously, with that undefeated record. So, the experience kind of levels out. This is the amazing thing about this fight, and the great thing about this fight is that it's so 50-50. I know it's often bandied round, but this is a really 50-50 fight. Even the bookies can't separate them. The bookies are making Serrano an ever such slight betting favourite. I mean, there's nothing in it, but a slight betting favourite, I think, based on her punching ability. And obviously Taylor brings those incredible skills and that will to win and that work rate to the fight. Contested over 10 2-minute rounds, which the maximum level allowed in the women's code. Incidentally, Serrano said in an earlier press conference she was much rather it was 3-minute rounds. She'd prefer that distance. So we'll have to see what happens there in the women's code. But this is being contested over 10 2-minute rounds. My own pick is I think Katie Taylor's going to do it. She's evens with the bookies, and Amanda Serrano is a slight betting favourite, so you'd have to bet more on Serrano to win anything back. But I just think Katie Taylor, they're both incredibly class acts. They're both incredibly class fighters. This is going to be an amazing fight. Incidentally as well, talking about breaking through, this is headlining at Madison Square Gardens, the first time that's ever happened. Both women are receiving 7-figure purses repeatedly. So that's definitely over $1 million each. And that's never happened before in a women's game. So this is a real sort of glass ceiling breaker, this fight. And it comes to us with such quality as well. It's the number 1 pound for pound in women's boxing and the number 2 pound for pound in women's boxing in Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano facing off against each other. So, it sort of can't fail to be exciting. It's almost difficult to see how this fight could in any way be boring or not live up to the hype. So, really looking forward to that. Like I say, my own prediction is that Katie Taylor's going to edge it on points. I think their skill level, their amateur experience is going to come into play. But, Serrano's going to be dangerous for 10 rounds without a doubt. Very dangerous. So that's my prediction. But let's sit back and wait and watch. And it's going to be a fantastic fight. Can't wait. Headline in Madison Square Gardens, $1 million purse paydays. Women's boxing is again taking leaps and bounds forwards. Great to see.